근데 파마되지 미군제 나 팅순배돌이야 베베기 라마게시니 남바조다 다나 신기 고마카네 베베 주변 남바서 아니메이제 다른데 소주리아 베베 세계미마 삼로리아 도망에 subject showing.
First of all, I would like to offer my greetings and welcome to everyone who has come to this third Arya Chema Winter Dharma gathering, all of the gurus, the lamas, the spiritual friends, the nuns from all of the different monasteries, and especially all of the people, lay and monastic, who have come to this teaching.
아들이야. 아주디 다 내재미 구주디 토마르 주고하기 그거보다 윤센데 조다 주마서기 라바 롬니르 야게용아 럽숨기 냠네 차창와르치 용토야르 진짜게 체도 이제 구주들이 주위에 드레인주산에 근데 지 주번은 신기 이제 주무청에냐 미세게 다 하셔다 지 디돌이야 지 좋아서는라도 지 라발로니에 차려야 좋아다 엔다는 신기 도나 전부 나체 다다바도 야게 남바스머로 론니마도 시험만 때문에 야게 남바 대야부시다 총유래 인주산에 엔터지 고금제의 dwin세 이제 좀 소래 나는 좀 소리야 마치 갑결낭행기 비지낭행 산다 갑결낭행기 개개인 소리에 나는 시 창로리야
Now, the primary reasons and purposes for instituting this Arya Chema Winter Dharma gathering is primarily so that the nuns would be able to increase their practice of contemplation, and in particular in particular so that they would be able to practice the three trainings in full. In accord with this, all of the nuns have had great enthusiasm about this. They have taken great interest in this, and there's been great improvement. We've only been holding it for 2 years thus far, but in that time, they have improved greatly. And so I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude towards the nuns and their teachers for their interest and enthusiasm.
다들 타겐기 다 송주샤디기 춘삼도 참도디 교수님들 덤버송에 류개바스다 류개베 봐도 휴심에 소치 Tenijiresha. Tadinima, Liu Gubanima, Mashuar Rusin.
Now, the place where we will pick up our teaching on the Ornament of Precious Liberation, that is the Jewel and Ornament of Liberation by another translation of the title. The place where we are picking up the teachings is that we have completed up through the 8th chapter concerning refuge and taking precepts. And so now we are picking up this year from the 9th chapter, the proper adoption of bodhicitta.
다 당분들이랑 과도마지 중세지마 로지 근데 제가 지슈는 거죠.
So first I will read a bit of the text and then I will explain it.
전주도 쌤게에 원인의 생계전도 양답을 접해 전주 되바데 온도계래 쌤게반의 현도지 양답 접해 전주도 제송소 전주기 줘도 쌤게발의 예나 숨데 배관의 예와의 상상기관의 예와 신이기관의 예와오 텔라 당분이 전주기 쌤 등이 소수기원의 상기기 사회 봐도 예와 배 땜바 파바 참배 송데 지게도 온도계 대양 사슬 대화면 때다른지 중에서 도시를 민신에도 이신노고니 몰로 개버져다 람보시宣布规模区的战略处置能力，那么你就争议说，先送说，被你就争议不太大呢，的大呢，同原本的出口牌都严的，这样啷个的讲呢？原本的那边的撒旦扎的，去搞不他们这吸引我不切吧，上班的那边的撒旦扎的成熟给牌都没有了，那边上班的那边的，大瓦切吧的扎的，给外去他的那边票有啊。 대숨네 소람 중원의 링다 첨부니 레 당비세 뒤바오 저와다 데바네 메다다 탐제케메 니술 지베 표진 습을 채워 대니 저월람 뒤바오 지메 프로도 지바네 때르심보다 다데 심지 탐제 습을 채워 수림다 데바네 좀부지 중에 단다데 연대 좀부지 땡경어 보 채워 서바다 데바네 자수심보다 다데 민되바 탐제 토도바베 민주바오 尊重的点吧呢，多是当着的，没习惯你给那少，上天的点吧呢，日给我当着的，没别那么因为没觉包，西了的点吧呢，没当着的，原木把的细节这边那媳妇儿切包，他当点吧呢，给外新年当着的，那个他们觉得是不是给对象说没懂啊？没那么的点吧呢，一心给弄不当着的，其他没别这份珠宝，多不当点吧呢，你妈当着的，对些样说没不切包，西了给朋友都亲吧呢。 최기 이시기 버려도 침반에 최기 당한다 뒤전 누버 집에 최된바 대다르 주니 림바다 랍도 가와라 소베 사주 뒤데 통야람도 고벨람지 주지 이노 옹버 시바다 데바네 개보 첨보단다데 투토범에 외신게 된 주바 소놈 다 이시다 데바네 방주단다데 초마 민저도 규바 전주기 초도 준비 최단 데바네 람보시단다데 파과탐지 시시 제수 식베소 年纪大，他通的点吧呢，选拔单着的，看的用处没当完，在哪都着，送到宝宝的点吧呢，购买去单着的，退把当马队比去这边没塞吧，台到俺的成就身边，开不了干了就丢吧哦。
Bodhicitta is the wish for utterly pure and perfect enlightenment so as to be able to benefit others. This is clearly defined in the Ornament of Clear Realization. Developing bodhicitta means wanting utterly perfect enlightenment for the sake of others. The different types of supreme bodhicitta are described in 3 ways: by simile, according to what demarcates levels, and according to their characteristics. The similes typifying bodhicitta from that of an ordinary person through that of a Buddha were taught by Arya Maitreya in the Ornament of Clear Realization. These are the 22 examples: earth, gold, the moon, fire, treasure, a jewel mine, an ocean, a vajra, ocean, medicine, virtuous friend, a wish-fulfilling gem, the sun, a song, a king, a treasury, a highway, a carriage, a reservoir, melodious sounds, a river, and a cloud. These 22 similes cover bodhicitta from initial aspiration to final dharmakaya. To relate these to the 5 phases of the path, bodhicitta endowed with aspiration is like the earth, for it serves as the foundation for all good qualities. Bodhicitta endowed with commitment is like gold, for it will not change until enlightenment is achieved. Bodhicitta endowed with profound commitment is like the waxing moon, for with this every virtuous quality will increase. These 3 constitute the beginner's stage, that is, the lower and middle and higher sections of the path of accumulation. Bodhicitta endowed with integration is like a fire, for it burns away the fuel, that is, the obstacles to the threefold wisdom, such as omniscience. This is encompassed by the path of application. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of generosity is like a great treasure, for it brings satisfaction to all beings. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of moral discipline is like a jewel mine, for it acts as the supporting ground for precious qualities. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of patience is like an ocean, for with this one remains untroubled by whatever unwanted thing turns up. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of diligence is like a vajra, for one remains indestructible. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of meditative concentration is like a mountain, for one remains unshaken by distractions posed by the mind's objects of attention. Bodhicitta is endowed with the perfection of wisdom is like a medicine, for it pacifies the sicknesses that are the affliction and knowledge obscurations. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of skillful means is like a virtuous friend, for with this one never relents from bringing the benefit to beings, no matter what the circumstances. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfect aspiration is like a wish-fulfilling gem, for with it one achieves whatever result is wished. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of powers is like the sun, for it helps bring disciples to full maturity. Bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of pristine awareness is like the melody of Dharma songs, for one gives disciples the Dharma teachings that inspire them. These 10 mentioned above correspond to their respective order to the 10 bodhisattva levels, from the joyous, the first level, through the 10th. Thus they lie within the sphere of the path of seeing and the path of cultivation. Bodhicitta endowed with clear awareness is like a powerful king, for with it one benefits others with unimpeded power. Bodhicitta endowed with a wealth of goodness and pristine awareness is like a treasury, for one becomes a storehouse of many accumulations. Bodhicitta endowed with the factors conducive to enlightenment is like a great highway, for with it one treads the way that all noble ones have tread. Bodhicitta endowed with a great compassion and deeper insight is like a carriage, for with it one travels directly to one's goals, never straying neither into samsara nor into the peace of mere nirvana. Bodhicitta endowed with dharani and prowess is like a reservoir, for with it everything learned through study or otherwise is retained and not wasted. These 5 encompassed by the special These 5 are encompassed by the special bodhisattva path.
추기 게임에서는 되면 자녀부 퇴바는 자리 타번 되면 뒤절은 녀버 저거 저번 집에 남다 되면 추균다 자리 생기 되는 차와 민년바 추기 고던 되면 진단 자리 간대기 내는 쇼발라서 봐 된배관에 심진기 되는 수차와는 텔라라레바 대דר 순니 상기기 세 뒤바데 대더나 니슈 전이부 레당부 베산의 송대 상기기 사이 파기 뉴소
Bodhicitta endowed with a beautiful garden of Dharma is like listening to melodious sounds, for it makes those disciples keen on liberation eager to listen. Bodhicitta endowed with the one and only way traveled by all the Buddhas is like the flow of a great river, for with it one never deviates from the purpose of benefiting others. Bodhicitta endowed with the Dharmakaya is like a rain cloud, for on it depends bringing about the welfare of sentient beings, such as through demonstrating the deed of residing in Tushita paradise. These last 3 points are encompassed within the stage of Buddhahood. Thus, the 22 aspects of bodhicitta presented by means of simile cover the entire path from the beginner's level through to Buddhahood.
상sam기 권의 예와는 시디 매바던 데비 심게다 학부 삼바던 데비 심게다 넘버미 비 심게다 디바방 비 심게다 텔라 당본이 매베 주베 세듀바남스 니바니 사당본이 뒤베 파타고 순반의 사게번이 주베 파타고 시번의 상기기 싸우 대다량 도디겐 심게 되는 사람들라 매달 하슴 타바다 남버미 버시는 디진 디바방모 셰송수 친이 이관의 얘나 니데 편담 전주기 있음도 군수 전주기 있음도 대다량 공방 예버는 되는 도래 전주기 있음 대한 남버 니데 편담 전주기 있음도 군수 전주기 있음도 셰송수
Classified in terms of what demarcates levels, bodhicitta is fourfold. Bodhicitta endowed with aspiration, bodhicitta endowed with extraordinary intention, bodhicitta in its full maturity, and bodhicitta with the obscurations eliminated. The first of the above corresponds to the levels of practice motivated by aspiration. The second applies to the first 7 great bodhisattva levels, the third to the 8th through 10th levels, and the fourth to the level of Buddhahood. Thus the ornament of Mahayana Sutras says, bodhicitta on the various levels is held to be accompanied by aspiration, pure extraordinary intention, full maturity, and the elimination of all obscurations. Classified in terms of the essential characteristics, bodhicitta is twofold, the ultimate bodhicitta and the relative bodhicitta. As the sutra definitely elucidating the noble intention says, there are two aspects to bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta.
차서 말했음서로지. 예. 이 차와 제시한다 저 서버이네 다지 차서 말했음서로지. 요번 뇌샤나 시라지 그범에버지. 차로도 제상 안 바지 군주 팅시베 걸리야 바지 사람이 왔음으로지. 드립 정도
From the beginning of the Aryachema Winter Dharma gatherings, we have been having these teachings on the jewel ornament of liberation. And I think that this year we probably will not finish the entire text. Were I to recite it extremely quickly, there really wouldn't be much purpose to that. So perhaps we will finish it next year during the 4th Winter Dharma gathering.
다마시 강수 사문으로 쉬먹어체 간다 지금 답에 타겐디 안에 마시 너니 그 유근셔거리야 너 너니네 고주제 답에 타겐 줄린 지금 고주그래 다버도 달로 근셔거리야 미세지 답에 타겐기 줄린디 젠드에 산다 개시슈를 체체 줄린디 개체를 체 아니 남규 전수차디 주 네급질이야 단 예수 예선으로 체체 다 조든 줄린차로 다도 조세브레 제상 간다리야 다간다 아주 답에 타겐 디톨이야 이제 참여기 다 슈geb스는 단도 간다 참여 통나르지 난디요 알아 그래서 버진 디르지 버지 응마르다 머중부터 버스는 단도 응아중 중가와로 또 차리요 알아
Perhaps it's really not necessary to say this to you. You probably already know. But starting last year during the Kaju Gunshu, we began conferences on the topic of this ornament of precious liberation. And so this year, we are in particular going to emphasize the conference on the ornament of precious liberation and make that the most important. This year we will be, we will be giving the competition aspect a temporary rest and primarily having the conference. And so this year everyone is really putting emphasis on the ornament of precious liberation. Everyone is taking a great interest in it. And this is something that you could say has never happened before or would have been difficult to happen before.
다 느리지 답을 하게냐 느리지 젠데를 채고 균젠데 초진에 에 균젠데 세브스타래 가르잖아 다 답을 그 유스 자디 안 답을 답을 하지다 르니기 södüyor södüyor Hindustane 안 답을 그 유번 남기 이제 랑기 다 가다지 다 매보세는 라도 간다를 지다 덤바세는 라도 다지 지다 조르디 답을 차리게 윈두산에 나 디기 지 송디줄이야 홍제베 대주디줄이야 도나셔가지고 러시 차리요래 미세도 답을 하지 전이기 에너지 답을 타기엔다 남셔리지 친원이리야 미세 다간다 에다 지주 두지남기 들이야 지 그래 로종 최고유스 아니 디 대바다 아니 nga thongba kheba meba chik tu shungti ni le deba da ngarang she da ngusum je wa kheba meba tu kanang yo yin du sa ne di gyun se la de ne nga so da ji ren xin ge da tonan che wa ru shi ne dan cha de wa.
Now, the reasons for this emphasis on the ornament of precious liberation are, from one side, very clear. The reason is that we are in the Takpo Kagyu, and so the Takpo Kagyu was founded by Gampopa, or Takpo Rinpoche. And so Gampopa is you could say, the forefather or the teacher of all of the Takpo Kagyu schools. And in particular, Gampopa himself said, so for that reason, it is natural that we will want to take interest in his words and in his writings. In particular, Gampopa himself recommended to all of his followers that they should study his two texts, the Ornament of Precious Liberation and the Supreme Ornament of the Precious Path in particular. He said that reading these was no different than seeing him. So reading these texts is the same as meeting Gampopa face to face. And so for this reason, it's natural that we need to take interest.
안다나 신기 타부가 유들이야 아니 지 가샤 추 인들 유버사지 다체 들이 토요래 다 가샤 추 인데스 두산에 지주밀라네 마 규베 차게 침비다 지 명아 아 디수다 아니지 조까든 바네 규베기 아니 기우숨 길라브림 다 니가로 지 다 지금 감매도 냠슬레서랑 장도 야나 간다를 니가로 지 창라만으로 지금 냠세는 게 왜인자 디균셀 때네 아니 가사 주인인데 체제 들으시 차통도 중래 다다데 이나 다대기 안주지 내당으로 대비입니다 딱 가사 주인인데 아버지 냠셰디 냠레루디 아부시다라 요거 메메스지 아바도지 까담베 너림디 소리야 아주 다가스 전지 도난으로 자체 도매함주지 드르비sion도 린비자 디균선 때네 딱 가자 추인데 다가나 지 냠셰 상을만 나와로 지용데 돼야지다 나버도 안 좋가던데 기부스미 일람려리아 이제 참에 도난으로 쇼체스 좋아하지 드리지다 저시 되래
The schools of the Dakpo Kagyu are known as the confluence of the rivers of Mahamudra and the Kadampa school. And so this means that we practice the pith instructions on Mahamudra that descend from Milarepa, as well as the stages of the paths of the three people of the three types of individuals according to the Kadampa school. And we can practice these in a way that they do not contradict each other. Or you could say that Gampopa taught the practice of these incomplete and completely and without any mistakes. And so this is the union of the two rivers of Mahamudra and the Kadampa. But if we look at our situation these days, we see that our practice of this union or confluence of the two rivers of the Kadampa and Mahamudra is not all so good. In particular, we do not pay much attention to the practice of the Kadampa paths of the three types of individuals. And so for this reason, it is important that for that reason, it is my hope that we become able to practice do the practice of the union of the Kadampa and Mahamudra, and in particular the paths of the three individuals in the Kadampa tradition.
lo chong tab senan dang dong tede ji ge chong da de nga sul pen do sim sha yu de chi tede imre je da bo rum ji kurang gi gar su na rasana nga da sim je le ya pen to ba de cho ga dam bi gu jin tede su na je zang da ji nga zo ji da ji cha ge chim bi gi 냠네 친예로 뒤수인 비냐 안 람상지 가주에 멍시로 가면 멍시의 정다르선다도 어저 야만지 튜몽 람데종 녀려봐 온도 마상와선다도 다간들지 시저르지 냠네 시저 템포 매버지 토하네 아니 집에 자가 전부 쌓아서로 저기 지 토버로 지 가져다 지최 사버로 되게 냠내 셰비나 대습식이 더 있으면 그냥 토하는 그걸 하고 싶다는 자리요. 제가 디균전에 되네 엔지 기부숨길 다지 라브린 되네 로rin기 장네 로rin기 배 공패도 땅에 에네 지 자가심이 냠내 셰로 두 충분히나 에네 지금은 지 펜도용대 알지 샘로 지 펜도용대 알지 다确实是多了去，把这用途了去都是人生成有的印度山提军山的点呢，大概的几单盖儿的军山嘛，我这个多呢，他眼里啊，多哪路去过的，开心不出去，都是通过的。
Now, from the perspective of a practitioner of the Dharma, the paths of the paths of training the mind for the three types of individuals from the Kadampa tradition are a method to train the mind. They are a type of training, and they're extremely beneficial. Gampopa himself said that his ability to help sentient beings came from the kindness of the Kadampa masters. Even if we are a practitioner of Mahamudra, if we do not have any foundation, if we do not have any training, or if we haven't prior to that trained in the common paths, if we have no basis, then if we immediately begin the high practices of Mahamudra, the profound practices of Mahamudra, it is difficult for them to actually benefit us and benefit our minds all that much. And so for that reason, If we first train in the stages of the paths of the three types of individuals and gradually train our minds, gradually improve ourselves, then we engage, and at that point, if we engage in Mahamudra practice, at that point it will be beneficial to us. It will bring benefit to our mind. Our Dharma will really function as Dharma. And so, for these reasons, I think that there are many general and particular individual reasons why it is important for us to take interest in the ornament of precious liberation.
다들인데야 심계 거리야 도디와래 제자 다들 심계의 시 유산 다당고들이야 심계사데 티젠람긴 주고선다도 티젠가람이야 슈먼슈데 엔저 심계의 매력을 토대에서도 자디와래 제자 아니 심계의 티젠람기 주고 인주르데 되시지르게 다디 조들이야 아니 심계 선다도 다 전주 심기 체화르지 전주 심기 다 체화서 배열르지 주세요 시에네 야부르시면서 섬탄도.
And so today we have come to the topic of bodhicitta. And in speaking about bodhicitta, bodhicitta is said to be the gateway to the paths of the Mahayana. Whether or not we have entered the Mahayana comes down to whether or not we have roused bodhicitta. And so I think that it will be beneficial for us to have an explanation now of what that gateway, what that gateway bodhicitta is, and of the great qualities, the greatness of bodhicitta.
다 도마들이야 심계의 티젠람기 주고 다 간다 티젠이라는 쇼발라다베 매 까메르지 유에나 티처 매나 탑차다베 지금 봐 된지기다 심규리아 녜시엔 로브를 지나 아니 지 이시계버지 다 되지고 알아.
And so first of all, bodhicitta is the gateway to the Mahayana. This means it's something that which is indispensable. With it, we can do everything. Without it, there's no method for us. So it is important or we need to develop certainty in this and have great belief in it.
다 될래야 그런지 특히 유구즈루는 체제 나들지 수수심리야 오늘은 심계사야디 지 티버신비기 치 남냠솔렘발래 매드 미루어지 봐 그래지 특히 유구즈루고 하는다 간다 니시를 깨고 그래 제사 다변은 롱다 리바다 다 빼다 다 나서 텔라서보다 탑투메 거래 안 티진 심게데 안 티진랑보다 주고선다도 다 티진이랑이야 메르미로치 봐 다디스 니시게 버서만 다 간다지 심이야 아주 이시게 버스 되듯이 고요하래.
And so for this reason we have to use many different methods to understand that bodhicitta is the gateway to the path of the Mahayana, in order to realize that it is indispensable for the practice of the Mahayana. We need many different methods. And so we need the methods of scriptures, or of logic, or of analogies. By using all of these different methods, we need to come to the certainty and to the belief that bodhicitta is the gateway to the Mahayana, that it is indispensable for the Mahayana path.
다 되네야 다지 당보들이야 룽 가시지 주비나 룽 가시지 주비나 야면도 something도.
And so I thought that at first it would be good to begin by giving you a few scriptural citations.
다 룽디 룽 뭐마도 봐 장먹어제 안디 게규알에 이마 게규알에 강에르스도 다티 튼다데 하고 오르마도 안디 삼섭 룽디 두지도 착보도 마 장한 루산 시다샤 같이 구주를 내데 자로도 다디 된다 도도로 시엔 증명죠.
Now, when I recite the citations, rather than I won't just read the citations because that's too difficult to transcript. And sometimes the meaning, so instead I will just give an explanation of the meaning. The words of the citations are often very difficult, and so I really wonder whether we actually understand them. So I think it's fine for us it's fine to just explain the basic meaning.
파바 참베 넘버 타벤도 사지유브레 디 나로레야 심게디 도지 팔람기 별랑체 아니 심게 소요브레 돈다 도도로데 전주그 심 규리 개베 있는 냠레 신다 마제비 있네야 전주 심 규루요지 지소요.
Now in the Sutra of the Purity of Manjushri, it says that the purity of Maitreya, it is said that bodhicitta is like a diamond, because if you arouse bodhicitta within your being, then you don't need even without doing any other practice, it becomes the cause of enlightenment.
다도 도지 팔람디 가르고라 팔람디 차소나야 디기 가르다지 tum부로 되서 에너지 무지 연신다 세기는 로르스의 소도와 팔람 주주마다 매비미냐 아나고라 콜람 마차는 팔람 도도를 쉐비는 되다베 자신비 인데 팔람디 차소이미는 디 tum부디서이네 아네 지지 무지 신달래 라버스도 차디요나 된더지 벨랑시 소나야.
So the reason this is said is because if a diamond is broken, then the individual fragments of that diamond are still greater, more brilliant than any other jewel. Of course, if it's not broken, it is very precious. But even if it is broken, the fragments are still more brilliant than other jewels.
내 나는 신기 바보 동북의 왼도에 나로나야. 아yanchi 전주 셈베기 전주 셈데 상계기 최탐지기 사변도 인체. 드린 주산다 셈게데 상계기 천주베 tum모임 비교르지 메질이야. 지나야스.
Likewise, it says in the Dombokupe Sutra that bodhicitta is the seed of all of the qualities of a Buddha. And what this means is that bodhicitta is the particular cause of all of the qualities of the Buddha.
That danger you want to share with me now. That machine don't want to show that the bedroom some to see. Ni shubre. That ne jige danger you want to share with me now. That 공부 참배 제버서 다 별이야 용장 공부 참배 제버서 그래. danger 운동 게 나로려. 엔 심게바다 당라도 소유주산에 다간다 된뒤주 소유주산에 디게 엔 심게데 된뒤주 당불이야 소미브다 심게데 된뒤주 나 당부디 심게 소유브다.
Now there are many different sutras, and I have just mentioned a few as an illustration. In terms of the treatises, in the treatises of Maitreya, that is what are known in Tibet as by being the treatises of Maitreya, in his Ornament of Clear Realization, the instructions on bodhicitta are given as the first of the 70 points.
아니 롭딩기 로말 딩베 딩이세죠. 다디 수레. 전화 고미로와. 데 전화 고미게 롭딩 나로래야 디시람데 조와데 체규르바사 지지지가래. 그래서 디시람덴사 되기 에 전주게 셈디 티버신비 남기 땡이바. 근데 소용하래.
In the letter to disciples by Chandra Gomin, it is said that bodhicitta is the basis for the path to happiness. And so here it says that what this means is that bodhicitta is the basis for the path of the Mahayana.
And Anna Shingi Pögi Lama Komati Zuki, that you sung Naloli Minia, and a Simgede Kashwadaji, Tizian Lam Yin Juguang, that Zawata Sunshab, that Mamushta.
Now, there are also many instances where the great Tibetan masters of the past have also said that bodhicitta is the gateway to the Mahayana and the basis of the path.
Telea, any Kadashurataji, Simgi Guli Gavimina, energy, Daji Lama Komega Mengatis Nalolea, Simgi Guli Gave. Ninjunda energy tambo ninjunda chansim lia and nebradoji nyora return gures kesi nywa twene gule gesona and tene sonde gewa tamji tabata tamji kembe gula wangme gures soyo arada di garis gurusana simge gule gebe imina gewa cidde시 chebe ineya tamji kembe gula rotoyaji.
And so when we develop bodhicitta within our beings, what these great masters of the past have said is that when we feel a wish for emancipation and bodhicitta in our being, when we have an experience of it and then elicit it and bring it forth, so if we have that, if we bring them forth and experience them and develop them in our beings, then whatever virtue we do will automatically become the cause of omniscience. What this means is that when we have bodhicitta, that no matter what virtuous act we do, it becomes a cause of omniscience.
And lama kashi sunganalaya, daji. Tiba Shimbu do samdo Masev, Tiba Shimbu Nagin Jugoyang, and Simye Yimba, De Sunayan de Yobre.
Now, some Tibetan masters also say that not only is bodhicitta the gateway to the Mahayana in the sutras, it is also the gateway to the Tantra of the Mahayana.
That Diji, the Majuji. Sangi Gadang, and Danaji Garkebe, Denjeta, and a Peggy, Kidu Commandam Gita, soon. The Bezun Zambrich Grace. Takan the Tindiji, Tonaji Kashureta, soon Tedala, Dene, Jangazo Nation John Duarji, Chanjuk Semsa, the Unetaneta, Tiba Chimbugi, Lamyamsu Lambala, Med Miruma Jimba, Jing, and Nation John Duarji, the Yondi.
And so with these illustrations of a few examples of citations from the words of the Buddha, from the treatises by the great Indian masters, as well as the teachings of the scholars and masters of Tibet as an illustration, I think we can develop certainty within ourselves. We can develop the certainty that bodhicitta is indispensable for the practice of the Mahayana path.
Tadine Rive Gona Samdam Yimina. That Rive Gona Samdam Yimina, and Chanju Semde, Kashre, Tizian Lam Jugu Imbate, Candice Duguresana, and Chanju Semde, Nam Gebana, and a Chushian Magayang, and Rani Kansadi Tibachimulia, go Chandore, Kimzer Richik Deja. Yumzen Yibati Simge the Tesona, Tibachimbuki, Takandra the Jiggy, Simge the Tesona, Tuni Gdala Sobegi, Yunden Kandijivina, Yendu Salia Londuips. That Ridusane, that Digita Yumzen Nietzsche.
In terms of, to establish this via logic, what are the proofs that we have that bodhicitta is the gateway to the Mahayana path? Well, the first proof is that from the moment that we develop bodhicitta within ourselves, then no matter what other dharma or other qualities we have become a Mahayana practitioner. The second is that if we lose bodhicitta, then no matter what other qualities we have, such as an understanding of emptiness and so forth, they all are on the level of the listeners in the foundation vehicle. And so we need to focus on these reasons.
다나 신기 심게 다 남 제외선에 som다 심게 제 세계의 거주 제소나 내리다 디버침벌에 냠주고 하래. 아야 심게당 심게 그런 율이야 깨버서만 율이 댐버서기 아니지 전주 선배 장소 조합시도 소요하래. 다 네기 김세를 지해. 다나 신기 심게 율이 깨베이미나 쥐바 쥐바를 말라베 이비네 자석이 쥐바를 바지 말라베 이비네 가사데 지 전주 선배로 지 가서다지 전주 선배 다 장수 조합을 지도 수용디 하래.
Likewise, if we lose our bodhicitta, then at that point we fall off of the Mahayana path. And if bodhicitta itself merely arises in our being, if we just have it in our being, then we are considered counted among the bodhisattvas, and so that is one reason. So if we have bodhicitta, if bodhicitta arises within ourselves, even if we do not do the conduct, even if we do not train in the conduct of a bodhisattva, then we are considered an individual who is counted among the bodhisattvas.
다 디기 금전데 다 가르던 거랬으나 지 최대 디바침비 최인 좀 미쳐봐. 간사라니 에네 디진도 추고해. And so I think that what these all show us is that it is not enough merely for the Dharma to be the Mahayana Dharma. It is important that the individuals themselves enter the Mahayana. 전주 semde 고아련바zam마도 매비미나 아니 티진데 고알련 받점으로 좀 마도베게 티진 엄마로지 친이버로 차도야 매브레.
And so if we just have an understanding of bodhicitta, have no more than understanding of bodhicitta, then we can do no more than merely understand the Mahayana. And whatever Mahayana practices we do will not be the actual or the authentic Mahayana.
심기 친이 창화지 예외입니다. 아니 티버심보 남다르 용디 아래. 제상 디균선 때네 티버심보 친이다 데베지 티버심보 차마차 티버심 남다르 차마차 사데 다라 루사사는 장도 다 간다르 베지 전투선도디 심기 친이다 데마치 유마요 텔레아라리디요.
If we have the authentic bodhicitta, then our Mahayana practice will be a pure Mahayana practice. It'll be pure Mahayana Dharma. So for that reason, whether our Dharma is the authentic Mahayana Dharma, whether it is pure Mahayana Dharma, it comes down to our own capabilities. What it comes down to is whether or not we have the authentic bodhicitta.
다들레한지 오늘 지 가르에 semge에서 말다지 semge에서는 라도 딱 한다 디 셈디 도시안 rum도다 다 마찬 아주 슝체부터 나로래야지 sem게 생이 좀 부시비도 야래 근데 다디 지금 아주 냠술 렌주산에 다 지난데 구주도 시비 구주도 전부 알아디 이면에 삼삼 냠술 레벨 겁이야 안데서 아주에 이제 독도르지 용음도 냠는 제가 독도르지 시다 용음도 다 간다리야 심게사디 겁들은 아주 티버 전부 시에디요 알아 심게 시에디요 알아 단도나 지 소수이기다 긴구르기 뉴베스는 말아 다시 셈리야 긴구르기 겐쿠야기 다디 뉴버르지 심슈 겐쿠야 심슈 되지 고야래
Now, in the great philosophical texts, there are often very long formulations of the characteristics of bodhicitta. But when we come down to our practice, though there's a lot to understand from these characteristics, when we are actually doing our practice, sometimes it's difficult to get our minds around them, to get a real sense of the essence or the real point of them. And so basically, bodhicitta, when we talk about Mahayana practice and bodhicitta, then bodhicitta really means our ability to take responsibility, the ability for us to be able, and the willingness that we have to take, to carry a burden.
아주 참섬지 티버침부 인 가서다지 참섬 아주 지 티버침이 취하르지 냠내 체대 여비 인자 디균선의 때네 아주 티버침부를 인 삼섬을 텐디요 나랑 텐디요 제가 상말 바지 티버침부를 인사 아주 마하야나 인스제 지 칸에 셰디요 다 임비네야 마하야나사 티버침 운에 이민디 다 당기 관도 주변에 신기 현대 쿠르드 키베기 다 간다 되지 긴구르긴 뉴버르 긴 심슈르 지메 될 땅도 되지 심슈메나 마야나 저거 말아
So we all practice Mahayana Dharma, and so we all think to ourselves, oh, I'm a Mahayana practitioner. I think this, and I'm sure we all think this. We all think, oh, I'm a Mahayana practitioner. And so we say this orally. But is that really what makes us a Mahayana? When we say Mahayana, then as I just mentioned, it's like, how much of the burden of other sentient beings are we willing to bear? How much enthusiasm, how much mental power do we have to carry this burden of other people? And if we do not really have that enthusiasm to do this, then we cannot really be Mahayana practitioners.
저 티버 첨부스라고 와 첨부 마하야나스 마하스라고 와 제산 다리 아주 다르지 심슈도 춘춘치 마하렘도 와 첨부래요 같다 다베 심슈 춘춘르지다 이 다 심진 탐지에서 내려 말아 심진 찐지기 된자고 죽네요. 깔락하고요. 다들 싫어요. 와서 말았으면 좀 못 정도야. 심진 찐지기에 이제 가서라다지. 데버를 써야지 기시하고 싶네. 내려서 그러면 와. 난 남보다 있는 심진 탐지사디. 다 지담 지 가서 미지게 롤 쇼한테 깔락하고 싶다. 심진 탐지가 된지사. 간에 쉐디 지부르 저러다 간에 쉐디 지부르 저 라렌트 산타디 다 참참 용아 매베기 저저도 다디 가르서 우연히 주토라 미카시지기 된주야래야 내가부터 터도 된주야래 가라 터도 된주야다 파스수세래 내가고 된주야들 가라 가버시 쉽지도 와 다이네야 제사 디균센 때네 첨부 차 내라고요. 마하야나사. 다 간다 티버 첨부 차 내려오지 맞지 남주지 지 소소지 첨부로 차도 연항으로 샤리와 이내야 또대 가서 베데 소소 나와 타스면 와서 지금 나와 타베 야보로 차도 sometimes 바로 뭐니 주소 다다를 드려만
So when we say Mahayana, the Maha means big, it means great. And so if we don't have that great enthusiasm, that great power of mind, then it's little. It's not Maha, it's little. And so actually it's difficult for us to have that great power. It's hard to get our minds around the idea of all sentient beings. Who of us can understand this? It's difficult enough to bring benefit to one or two sentient beings. And when we think about it, when we think about all sentient beings, we think, I can't even do that now. When we think about trying to make a connection with one or two sentient beings and then do something to benefit them, that's hard enough. When we think about all sentient beings who are as limitless as space, then we can't even, it won't even fit within our conceptions. We can say this with our mouths. It's really impressive to say this, but it's like it's not actually there. We aren't actually at that point. It's something that we aren't able to get there. And so forget about even benefiting all sentient beings. If we want to bring temporary or ultimate benefit to just a few people, then it's very difficult. Forget about bringing ultimate benefit. It's hard enough to just bring some temporary benefit to other people. So it is not very easy for us to become great, for us to become Maha. The Mahayana, it is not easy to be a Mahayana practitioner. And so we may think of what we are doing as great, and it may appear to us as if we have that great or that Maha, but in actuality it is not so.
나 제사 뒤균전되네. 가서 오늘 전에 가서 지 드제다 지 긴구르기 되지 다 가서다 지 심진 탐식 되지 신뢰 되 심진 탐식이 매 가서 니단 땡기 뉴마 주야기 되지 다지 긴구르기 삼르 지 긴구르기 긴구르야도 심슈 되지 영화데 아주 종달 차와지 갈리갈리 종달 차와지 되지 종달 차나 용거데 용시래 종달 맞에 비치 대비면 아니 용시와 제가得아주 종달 차와지 안다 지 럼림사데 종달 차를 로리야 종달 차 로장마스도 고는 공배도 야바 로장니 아니 약게를 용하지 되지 로게 용하 되지 쳐고도 네 럼림 아주 냠수 랭과 럼림 딱과 김선로데 로 고는 공배도 약게 용하고 때 뒤쳐도 아주 럼림 다디 걸어
And so for that reason, it is important, we need to train in order to be able to bear the great burden of bringing benefit to all sentient beings, to benefiting them now and forever. We need to train in order to develop the mental power to be able to take this responsibility. If we do this training, then it is possible that we can develop this. But if we do not do the training, it is impossible. And so we need to do the training. And so that is why we have the training in the stages of the path. It's the stages of training the mind, going through the stages of training the mind. We need to increase our capabilities, increase our qualities so that we can do this. And so that is the reason why we need to practice these teachings on the stages of the path.
답변은 아주 류제제에 걸려야 종 류제제에 걸려야 아주기 가사데 지고야 지고 용도도 와 지금 담보 킬로 숨시들이 야야 비체려야죠 아주 당번에 몇 킬로 야야 고 말아 나 이미네 림베신도 정다치 당보 킬로 숨시 아 근데 야 아니 킬로 접게스네 시야 안 근데 림베신도 안다 킬로 야지 얘들이 리메이션 정다 채비나 얘는 킬로 갸도 하루 용 거로 와. 나 재산 되는 신 다디 다 가로다 칠로기 수부 정다래. 나 낭sem리 있는 되는 신 아주 정다르 제. 약의 공배단 리메이션 다다다 야고시다요 만. 이미네 아주지 가서에 야부지 용아 특시체. 야부지 용아 배주 체비나 니마 딱바르시 안 딱한다 유마제도 체비미나 안 준비시 야게 용으로
It's like if we train in a physical exercise, like weightlifting, for example. We can't immediately lift a weight of 100 kilos, for example. It's difficult. There are very few people who can immediately lift 100 kilos. But if you start out by first lifting 3 kilos, then 4, then 5 kilos, then maybe 18 kilos, and then you gradually work up to it, you can gradually become able to lift, to press 100 kilos. And so gradually we can develop, and you will be able to lift 100 kilos. And so in this way, this is just as we train our bodies, our physical bodies externally, internally we also need to train our mind. And so right now we may not be so good, but gradually if we work at the methods to make ourselves better, to train ourselves, to improve ourselves, if we put some effort into this every day without fail, then gradually we will get better.
응마 마시디 중들이 지시에 차래 다이네 안게 지시에 개바스케 민도 지디 가라스나 아네 라마질이야 아네디 가사디 데레 아네 미지기 라마질이야 컨디슈비스 꾸리사디 꾸리 여르바다 꾸리데 아네 티버 심비 취하라다 티버 중을 취하랬어 컨디션이었어 꾸리디 진짜 최고야 가라서 꾸리디 깨라치고 싶지 않아 별라 개방 우마 다 등산 유기를 우마 깨라치고 가라서 꾸리디 년송 정원을 초등학교 인상 지금 다디 미시버 상황으로 안 돼야 초가 뭐 파지다 꾸리 되네 다 종조 경계인데 저기 라서原来面 데 꾸리 임바장마 세상 우마들이 계속 충분했어 꾸리기 빼서냐와도 키스여도 찍어랬어 꾸리기 빼서냐다 키스와 찍어랬어 야부 말했어 가라서는 급디두산에 다지 총리야 총지 미산들이 나로래 초간대한들 두산에 다 육시슈는데 세난다도 지 상매기 가슈는데 꾸리 초가 찍어왔어 가라서 미시부디 줄이야 안다디 꾸리디 페미치고 싶지 알아라서 상매에 꾸리 되어서 꾸리 되어서라고 있어와 제가 디 꾸리디 깨라셔 잘 제가 깨라셔라 미상매지 또 써야 저 또로야기 저가를 찾아 아니 꾸리 베제냐와다 키스여는 찍어라서 근데 기지 좀 다가다 깨라셔 잘 그래서 제가 미지기다 고 도바 사이즈로 꾸리디 깨라셔 싶지도 이내 다 티고 침비취에 티고 중취 하고 면도 상제 엔 라마질이야 꾸리스야디 티고 침비기 취에라다 티고 중취 취에라서 지케지 될래야 렌스 가로지 또 쉬어래
I've told this story before. I've told a lot of stories. I've said it before, but I think that if I repeat it, then it's still beneficial. So once there was a master in Tibet, and a person came to ask him whether the ritual of Sarvavid Verochana was Mahayana ritual or is it a foundation vehicle, Hinayana ritual. Now the reason he was asking about Sarvavid Verochana is that in the old days in Tibet, Sarvavid Verochana was an extremely well-known and very popular practice. Maybe it's not quite as popular these days, but the reason why it was popular in the past is that Sarvavid is renowned as being the greatest for purifying the lower realms. And so, for that reason, whenever someone had to do a ritual on the behalf of the deceased, they did the Sarvavid ritual. In fact, it's said to be that actually the texts of Sarvavid were keeping them was sort of like keeping dogs. They were something that everyone kept. The reason that they were famous is that every time anyone was asked to go do a benefit, do a service on the behalf of the deceased, they were always asked to say, "Oh, please do the Sarvavid ritual. Please do the Sarvavid ritual." And so, for that reason, it was a very famous and very well-known puja. Now, this person thought about this, and he got a little doubt about it. He wondered, what is this Sarvavid puja? Is it a Mahayana puja, or is it a foundation vehicle puja? And so he went to this Lama and asked him, please tell me whether Sarvavid is Mahayana or whether it's a foundation vehicle.
다 라마디기 에너지 다 되다 지단으로 시민다 랜드디 가르사나 랜드지 다 되다 티버침비주 인다이 상하고 쉬어 와서지 시그러 봐 이나 라마디 냠내 연계지 인상 공기디 미들이 아버지 세제 다 나란이라디 그리디 티버침비주에 민도스 티버침비주에 민도스
Now the Lama replied, of course, Sarvavid is, of course, it's a Mahayana. It's not just Mahayana; it's secret mantra Vajrayana. But that Lama was very clever, and he looked very clearly. And what he said is, for the two of us, Sarvavid isn't Mahayana. It's not even foundation vehicle.
다 제상 아주 되는 자로서다. 딱 오늘 전에 제나 아주래다지. 티버 신비 최 차마사사디 최 코란 티버 신비 최에 맞음 미변바. 딱 가사 냠서 랭긴 가사디. 봐. 냠서 랭긴 가사디 티버 신비 최신도 냠서 레멜레. 다 들지 라레.
And so we are like that. Whether or not the Dharma that we practice is actually Mahayana or not is not just a question of the Dharma itself. What it depends upon is whether the individual who's practicing it is able to practice the Mahayana Dharma or not.
다다바동 땅 아주 좋아디 디지 좋아지 땅체. 다다바동 아주 최 제제디 티버 신비 최레디 알다. 티버 충을 최레디 알았지 끼지지나 달라마디 랭카르교래.
So we need to change this question around a little bit. If we were going to ask that Lama, well, all the Dharma that we've practiced up to now, is the Dharma that we've practiced up to now, is it all Mahayana Dharma or is it foundation vehicle Dharma? What answer is that Lama going to give?
다 공기 다다방 아주 최제제 티버 신비 최마 티버 충을 최 말에 손나다 오즈르 다 텔레 도즈서 다다방 아주 최제제 최레어 말에 손나 되네다 걸라가 차사로.
And so if you were to say to us, well, the Dharma that we're practicing is not Mahayana Dharma and it's not foundation Dharma, then that's not so bad. But what if you were to say to us that the Dharma that we're practicing isn't even Dharma?
제가 지 다다방 아주 지 최제대 다지 최제대베다 수르지도 세 이미나 전도 다지 최소 송선나다로 최 다다부 최제대바디 당난점인바 아니지 최양다선나다도 최어마도 차도 여러베서나 다디 수수 계지야래 수수 상다를 마도 다디 시야가라 하고시라래 이메나 다 갈라하고 인기를 삼정도 갈라하고 인기를 삼정도 제가 디균zel 때네 당아 중에 버도 지 치기 넘규를 잡다 이제 람룩수에 잡다 지 가르르다 지에 담낭점 다디디 점지 이츠므로 미제바 다 되는 말이야 지금 오늘 전에 다가다 야보지다 아니지 데마르지 용도도 뭐 다과한테 개좀시라를 샤
So up until now, the way we have practiced the Dharma, we have it's like we've been practicing the Dharma, but actually has it, as it said, does the Dharma become the Dharma? Or is it that we are practicing some sort of a surfacey Dharma or an imposter Dharma? Is it actual Dharma? Is it a true Dharma practice? This is something we need to ask ourselves. It's difficult to say. But I think that it's difficult for it to be true Dharma. I think that would be difficult. And so we shouldn't merely be satisfied with the external appearances. We should not be satisfied with following the customs. We shouldn't be satisfied by just this, by just the appearance of Dharma. The actual question, in actuality, it is important for us to look at ourselves and see whether we actually have the ability to practice the Dharma properly and truly. And so that is about it for today, and we will leave it here.